Hey there, fellow classic comic collectors. As always, I'm Scott Harris King, and today I'm really excited to talk to you about the hottest artist in the world of comics. Yes, there's no comic book artist hotter than this person, and you guessed it, I'm talking about Jose Delbo! Jose Delbo! So, here's a issue of Wonder Woman with a probably my favorite work by Jose Delbo. It's Wonder Woman 253, my copy down here, signed by Jose Delbo. And for those of you who are familiar with Jose Delbo's work, it's fine. Um, Certainly have nothing against Jose Delbo, uh, but I don't think anyone would ever have expected Jose Delbo to become the hottest comic book artist in the world, especially considering the fact that he's 87 years old. So, what am I talking about? Well, Jose Delbo, as I just showed you, is one of the main Wonder Woman artists. He was a regular artist on Wonder Woman back in the 1970s. He did a lot of other work for DC as well. But Wonder Woman's what he's best known for. And in addition to being the regular artist on Wonder Woman, he did other Wonder Woman stuff. Like, I think he did some of the stuff in Adventure, some of the stuff in World's Finest. I'm actually not 100% sure. And it's very fine stuff. It's workmanlike. I've got nothing against Jose Delbo. I think he's basically, for me, he's kind of like DC's version of Sal Buscema. He's solid. He's a good storyteller, not flashy. The kind of person who I don't think anyone would have ever said my favorite artist is Jose Delbo. But when you read a book by Jose Delbo, it's fine. It tells the story. It's fine. Now, of course, given that he's in his late 80s, he retired from making comics quite a while ago. And these days, you can see him out of the convention scenes. Obviously, I've seen him in a couple shows here. I got his autograph. It was $5. And he sells prints and stuff like that. And so my understanding from reading a couple articles is that, he's basically, during the pandemic, he was sitting around at home and he was bored and lonely. It's hard enough for the elderly without the fact that all the isolation of the COVID stuff, and he couldn't go to the shows to interact with the fans anymore. Also losing that source of income from going to those. And so it's a tough time for Jose Delbo, just like it's been a tough time for so many people. And that's when his grandson apparently came to him and started to explain to him what NFTs are. Now, for those of you who don't know what NFTs are, well, I'm in the boat with you because I barely understand them myself. But basically, an NFT stands for non-fungible token. And it's basically this thing that's like, I don't know, some coding on the interwebs. It's a computer token that basically tells people that you're the owner of this bit of internet data. So there's people that sell different things that are non-fungible tokens. Like you can get, people will design like buildings in virtual worlds, and you can buy those using these non-fungible tokens, and that shows people that you're the owner. But it's become this big thing in the art world in the last few months, where people will create digital works and they'll sell the original artwork to people. And it's something where to me, it's basically just bragging rights. So it's basically saying, yes, there's this digital image and anybody can Google it or look at it online or send the meme around, but I own it. And here's my non-fungible token that proves that I'm the owner of this cool thing. And there was a famous incident a couple months ago or a few months ago where an artist sold a digital work for like $71 million with this non-fungible token. So it's become this big thing. I'm sort of making fun of it because it sounds kind of dumb, but when you really think about it, it almost makes sense. People these days, they're spending more and more of their time online in their online life. So social media, gaming, you're for especially for the younger people, their lives are becoming more and more online as opposed to here in the real world. And so this has been a way for people to start basically monetizing the internet even more, and just to sort of again have the ownership of virtual artworks and virtual creations. It's a tool for artists to kind of protect the rights of their works online as well. So in that sense, I appreciate it. So Jose Delbo, grandson, comes to him and is like, "Hey, there's this thing, these non-fungible tokens. You create this artwork online, and then you sell the original online, or you sell prints. So whatever, however you're gonna do it." So Jose Delbo ended up teaming up with a digital artist who does this sort of thing. They collaborated on a bunch of Wonder Woman pieces and put them up for sale, and they sold for nearly $2 million. So a number of different pieces. Again, some of them were limited editions. So there was one that was like 129 digital prints available. So there was 129 non-fungible tokens to show that you owned one of these. I mean, it's still a little hard for me to wrap my head around, because you can go online and just Google the image that they were selling, and you can look at it and download it. So you could have a copy of the picture yourself if you wanted, but you would just be having a copy of it. Whereas these people have ownership of one of the original prints, right? So I guess it's the same idea as collecting in the art world. If Andy Warhol made 200 copies of his Campbell soup can print, and you own one of the originals, anybody can buy a poster reproduction. But if you have one of the original prints, it's worth more. It's that sort of thing. And so, yes, Jose Delbo, almost $2 million. That set off this interesting chain reaction. So one of the great things for artists that make comic books is that they can sell their original art. That's why a lot of artists that work in nowadays making digital art will make physical art instead for specific pages that are like the money shots, like the splash pages or big action sequences. They'll still draw by hand, because then they have a secondary market where, after getting paid by Marvel or DC or whoever for the publishing rights to that art, since they get to keep the original art, they can then sell it on the secondary market and make money twice on it. So that's been a big thing. But it's been hard for some people, including myself as a digital artist with my own comic book. I don't have any original art to sell, so there's no way to do it. So all of a sudden, the non-fungible tokens become this thing. Comic book artists that work digitally are like, wait a minute, I can now sell my original art just like in the physical version, but now I can do that for my digital art by using these non-fungible tokens, so that the person that buys it has the rights to the original art, even if they still don't actually have the publishing or distribution rights. So it's anyway. What's happened is, in response to this, and specifically to the Jose Delbo situation, where he's drawing Wonder Woman, a character that he is famously associated with, but has no sort of trademark rights to be monetizing. DC, and then followed by Marvel, sent out notices to all of their artists saying that they are not allowed, under any circumstances, to sell their digital art, original art, using non-fungible tokens. So it's become sort of this thing in the comics industry. As a response to that, or maybe it was already in process, I'm not sure, Jose Delbo ended up coming out with a second series of artworks using an original character that he created, and again had a bunch of different prints, and some of them were one of a kind, other ones there were multiple versions, and again made over $1 million selling these non-fungible token original artworks to people. And so it's starting to become this thing in the comics industry. Now I'm looking into it myself because I don't fully understand, just on a technical level, how you attach this non-fungible token to your digital art. If I can figure it out, I'm going to give it a try. It would be a great thing to offer as like a Kickstarter reward for an issue of my Crime Busters or something like that. Other comic book artists, again, are trying to sell their digital original art, but other people are taking it even further. If you're familiar with the comic book Mind Management, spelled MGMT, so Mind Management, it was an ongoing series for a few years from Image Comics. Well, the creator of that book has done a new issue, but there's only one copy available, and it's available digitally as an NFT. And what I was reading is the creators basically said whoever buys that owns the original art to it and is allowed to distribute it for free to anybody they want to, but they're not allowed to make any money off of it other than by reselling the original art. So they can't sell like PDFs of the issue to people, or they couldn't print the comic and sell the comic. They can distribute the comic for free across the internet if they feel like it, or they can just sell the original art and keep the story to themselves. I have very mixed feelings about this. It's similar to a situation that happened a few years ago before the NFT craze, where Wu-Tang Clan had an album they came out with where they only made one copy of it, and then they sold it to this guy. This guy bought it for like several $1,000,000 and now had the only version. And so I don't really like this very much, because as an artist, it feels like it's basically making it so that art isn't for the masses, it's just for the rich people. So these people can buy a story, they can buy a song, and they can just keep it for themselves, and nobody else can ever experience it. Now, if I was a fan of Mind Management, I would be really irritated that there's an issue that I could never read unless some rich person decided out of the goodness of their heart to share it with me. I don't really like that concept, and I don't fully understand on an artistic level why you would want to create a work that you're not going to share with anybody. So I don't like that, but it's an interesting development. I don't know if anyone's going to follow in their footsteps. My guess it'll depend on how much money they get for that issue of Mind Management. But it's a really strange turn of events where now, all out of nowhere, 87-year-old Jose Delbo has become a multimillionaire because his digital original artwork has become a huge thing in the art world, and his non-fungible token art is selling for tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars each. Never in a million years would have expected, of all people, for Jose Delbo to become the darling of the digital art world. But that's sort of the crazy inflection point we're at right now in terms of comics and digital art. So I just wanted to talk about that and share that. Again, here's my Jose Delbo bit of artwork. Now this, like he had a print, they had 129 copies of it, and they sold for hundreds or thousands of dollars each. So he made like a ton of money off of that. This is similar. They originally limited this run to only about 200,000, maybe 250,000 of this were printed, and probably half of them were returned and destroyed at the time. And then who knows how many still survive. So this one has the additional benefit of being signed by Jose Delbo. So if you want to get a limited edition Jose Delbo artwork, just hit me up in the comments below. One of his Wonder Woman prints sold for $300,000. Now that was one of a kind, but I'm willing to sell you this for just $5,000. So much cheaper, and you can have your own limited edition Jose Delbo artwork to display in your house and share with whoever you want. Just remember, of course, that you can't print your own versions because DC still owns the publishing rights. But So weird. If I figure out how these NFTs work, I'm sure I'll do another video about this. I do have a couple comics coming out later this year. I'm putting the finishing touches on my Uncle Sam versus Cthulhu one-shot that I wrote with art by Jay Piscopo. I've got a new variant cover. I'm going to do a whole video about that soon. And if I can figure out how NFTs work before that goes live on Kickstarter, then I will share a video with the process of creating and selling the original art digitally. Now, I just have no idea. I have no idea how that works, but I'm gonna look into it. And yeah, again, if you want to buy this $5,000, just let me know. Signed by the artist, the darling of the art world, Jose Delbo. So thanks very much for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this latest, just like mad, just like whack-ass development in terms of comic book art and comic book original art and comic collecting, because it's just blew my mind. Let me know what you think below, what you think of the NFTs and this whole idea of making a comic that only one person gets to read. And I'm really curious to see what people think. Until then, God bless Jose Delbo. Like, it's kind of a cool story. I feel happy for him. But wow, so weird. I'll see you next time.